Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to another Sunday of When Black Women Gather. This is Helen Higginbotham, and we have another amazing Sunday where we're going to talk legacy planning. And who knows, what did I say? Who knows? Oh, who knows your business? And what do we mean by that? I think some of you know what's going on in my personal life where I have a situation with my sister. And what you find is that we just don't know what's happening with people. We don't have conversations that we should be having about illness, catastrophic situations, about nobody wants to talk about when we expire, like we're going to be here forever. We're not. And somebody needs to know what's going on with you. Where is your money? Do you have any money? Do you have a will? Do you have, orders for resuscitate or not to resuscitate? Where are your, nothing's in writing anymore. So we don't have our bills and our banking information. None of that's on paper. So you can't go to somebody's house and like look for banking statements and things of that nature. So that's what we're going to talk about today. How do we prepare for those kinds of things? What should you have in place? And Nikai Lewis is a founder of I'm sorry now, why can't I remember the name of it? I'm having a brain fart. American Dreamers, and it's a member based financial um, platform that talks about wealth empowerment. And she's going to walk us through how she started that, why she started it, what services she offers, what kinds of things should we know. You guys may remember maybe last year we had Maritza Brown on, and she talked to us about investing. It was a smart cooperation for investment group. Some of us joined, and Maritza, is who referred me to Nikai. So welcome, Nikai. We look forward to hearing about the work that you do, and I'm going to turn it over to her. And like we talked, we will do questions. You can drop questions in the chat as we go along. And then, I'm sure Nikai will stop if she sees something just pressing and answer it as it comes up. So
Thank
welcome,
you.
Miss Nikai.
Thank you so much, Miss Helen. I'm so excited to be here. And, this is a beautiful Sunday for me. I'm in the beautiful state of New Jersey. So it's 65 and gorgeous outside. And I'm just excited to be where Black women gather on a Sunday and sharing knowledge, right? So make sure, ladies and gentlemen, because I did see we had a few
We
men in the
invited
house,
men. Mhm.
which is
This is
amazing.
relevant information for all of us as a community.
Of
So,
course.
most times it's 99% women, but most times men are welcome in our circles as well. So, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So I want to go ahead and make sure that you guys have your pen and paper ready. I'm going to share my screen and just making sure that everyone can see my full screen. I'll be going through a couple things here. Okay. All right. So, welcome to again a legacy planning. Who knows your business? And again, my name is Nikai Lewis, president and founder at American Dreamers. We are a wealth empowerment club dedicated to helping individuals preserving their legacy and making sure they have all the necessary things to do so. Right. So, we're going to get started. So first, I wanted to talk about a little bit about, a few stats, right? So when it comes to Americans and especially, I know I have mostly, different age group on this call, but most Americans don't even know where their parents keep their estate planning documents, right? So if you have grandchildren, you have children, right? Most 52% don't even know where the parents keep their documents, okay? 34% of individuals from 35 and 54 have actually never, ever discussed estate planning with anyone. Okay. And at a staggering 32% of most Americans have a will. So here are the stats when it comes to the ethnicities, right? 35% of most white adults have a will. 29% of Black adults have a will. And 27% of Hispanic adults have a will. This is according to caring.com, right? So as you can see for us on this call, that we're kind of fall in the 29% range. And, our goal, especially with American Dreamers, is making sure that we as individuals, we get that number up a little bit higher, right? So it's all about coordinating and doing events like this so we can be able to help people. There's a lot of individuals, let me go back to that one, it went back faster. There's a lot of individuals who actually, I would say that passed with a legacy without an estate plan, right? So I wanted, for you guys to know if you never even knew, and I want these people to also be remembered and be as a statement piece, which is Michael Jackson, $1.5 billion, big legacy, no estate plan. Prince at $300 million. Jimi Hendrix at $175 million. Tupac Shakur, he left a $200,000 estate. Martin Luther King Jr., a $250,000 estate. Think about that, right? No will, no estate plan. Okay. There's a couple other ones who also died without an estate plan. Steve McNair at 19 million, Aretha Franklin at 17 million, Amy Winehouse at 4.6 million, Princess Diana at 31 million, and James Brown at $100 million. Now, I know you guys are like, wow, like, did you even know that? Put in the chat, a one in the chat if you knew these numbers about some of these people, right? I always love to share these kind of stats because I want to bring more awareness how important estate planning is and keeping your legacy. Even people who are as busy as celebrities, right? That have not enough time in the world, they themselves have forgotten that. So I totally understand, right? So why did I create American Dreamers and why is this so important? So this is my aunt who passed away. Her name was Candy. And basically, she was one of those individuals who died also without an estate plan. Some of you may know who Michael Williams is from like The Wire and certain things, right? They were together. That would be like my uncle, right? So unfortunately, they both passed without an estate plan, right? And during that time, this is during COVID, I was looking into it. I was trying to learn more about it. She didn't have any insurance. She didn't have an estate plan. She didn't have a will. She was in dialysis for 3 days a week, right? I went through it with her and I made sure that I wanted her. I actually got the opportunity to spend my last 2 years with her, taking care of her, right? Making her the happiest that she can be. And believe me, she was one woman I could say had the most energy and the most passion for someone in a wheelchair. Okay. So this is also in memory of her. So I also wanted to share that with you guys. So how important is when it comes to your estate plan, right? Now, like I said, a lot of common misconceptions when it comes to estate planning is that, I'll do it in the future. Now is not the time, right? Now is the time for you to make sure you put everything in place, right? Another common misconception, right, is that only people with wealth and valuable possessions need an estate plan. You feel that you don't have anything of value. Why should I even bother, right? Again, like I said, so the reality is the peace of mind for estate planning creates what we call value for everyone, regardless of your net worth. If you have people that you care about, you have organizations that you care about, you want to make sure, right, that you put these kinds of things in place. Also, when it comes to the perception, well, estate planning, it's so depressing. I don't really want to talk about it. It's stressful. It's anxiety producing. Yes, we all know that. But what's more anxiety producing is when you don't take the time to actually learn about what you need to do to secure your legacy, right? We're all hardworking Americans. We're here to build. We may be first generation, second generation, or even, third generation, but we want to make sure that we have the right estate plan in place. So making your estate plan is like an act of love, right? For your family. It's like, wow, they really took the time to make sure that everything was in place so we wouldn't have to struggle. And I know when my aunt passed and she didn't have her stuff together, we had to go do a GoFundMe. We had to go figure out where her paperwork were. We had to go and search through her things to find documents. Then family members are going through your things trying to find documents. And then, you're grieving and then people are like moving her things around. And it could be very, very painful, especially for someone that you care about, right? So that's why it's super important. And I'll show you a couple of things of what I've developed along the way to kind of help us with that. So I partnered up with wealth.com. I'm a life and health licensed agent. I'm not an estate planner. I'm not an attorney. So I always say that in disclosure. But I did invest in a plan to allow the members to have access to that, right? So, and we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like. So, it's been created by experts, Goldman Sachs, Google, right? It's all approved. And basically, as a member, you get this as part of your membership, right? I want everyone to be able to create your own trust, create your own estate planning documents, making sure that you can do it, right? And I don't want money to be a barrier. Of course, if you have the money, you want to spend $2, $3, $4,000 on it, by all means. But within this platform, it's valid in all 50 states, okay? And everything is state specified. It's already built out with what you need it to be. So let's talk about a couple more misconceptions, right? Some people say, well, Nakai, it's too complicated. Well, many people believe estate planning is complex, it's tedious, it's time consuming, right? But it doesn't have to be. Wealth platform can actually make it very intuitive. It's very simple, right? And of course, another misconception is I don't want to burden my loved ones. So again, believing about your end of life issues with your loved ones can be upsetting. That's why we want to be able to make this as smooth as possible. I'm going to go through a couple terms because there's a couple basic terms everyone should know, right? Like what is probate, right? So this is the process where a judge reviews your will and gives your executor permission to distribute your assets. Typically, the court charges a fee for this process and your will becomes a public record. That's what probate means. Okay, assets. What's an asset, right? So it's typically everything that refers to your stuff, quote unquote, right? So everything that you own is considered your asset. We're talking your cash in your bank, your stocks, right? If you have 401k, you're getting retirement, your pensions, right? Your home, your collectibles, your furniture, and any cryptocurrencies or anything else in additional that you may have, right? What is the agent or attorney, in fact, right? Which is the financial power of attorney. Okay, that's basically someone who can make decisions on your behalf, again, if you're incapacitated, right? And we'll talk a little bit about what that is, the agent or the attorney. In fact, the beneficiaries are the people who you want to receive your assets, right? So that's anyone you choose, including your family members, your friends, and of course, organizations, right? You may say, hey, I don't have any family, I don't have any friends, but guess what? Your legacy can still live on by you donating your things to a charitable organization. And it's not going to walk itself there, right? We've actually got to write it out, right? We got to write it out. We got to get it notarized and make sure that you have these plans in place so that your things can all be distributed equally. And then who is your executor? So your executor is the person who you want in charge of administering your estate after you're gone. And this person is usually responsible for collecting your assets. So you want to have your executor, like who is that person in your life that you trust, right? That is going to execute this stuff to your loved ones, because you always need that neutral person who's not really kind of benefiting, because what I've seen in the past is the one that's benefiting starts kind of weaseling out the other one sometimes, or if you feel that person's really going to take care of your nieces, take care of your nephews, right? So that's super, super important. And of course, the guardian, if you're a single parent, you want to make sure to put those paperwork and stuff in place so that your children are also protected, right? There's guardianship papers, right? How many of your children's children have those kinds of things together? So we want to make sure we have those thoughts in process. When it comes to your trustee, the trustee is the person for which, like you can have an investment firm or a bank. They could be responsible for the ones holding your trust, right? And again, these are just basic terms everyone should know, right? So when it comes to your last will and your testament, commonly referred to as the will, this is a legal document which names your executor and your final wishes regarding your assets, your beneficiaries, and pretty much where's everything going, okay? And we spoke a little bit about the financial power of attorney, but again, that is, allows you to conduct financial transactions, sign documents. Let's say if you couldn't speak and we need to go and pay the mortgage, paying the bills, I had a case like that with someone was asking me, well, hey, my husband woke up the next day and he wasn't, conscious. What am I going to do? I've got to pay things. I need to, get the Social Security out. They won't let you touch that stuff without that document. Okay, so if you're married, you want to make sure both of you have those documents together. Okay, and also the advanced health care directive. So if you're incapacitated and you can't communicate your wishes, tomorrow something happens to you. Does anybody know, right? What to do? Do you want to be resuscitated? Do you want to be on a breathing tube for the rest of your life? Would you want to have your organs donated, right? What are we going to do with your materials, right? What you call it, your material, right? You got to make sure that you have this document. And most people overlook this document. And this was a document my aunt also did not have. And then I had other family members, getting in the middle of what we're going to do and not going to do, right? Even though she already told me what she wanted. So just keep that in mind. And then lastly, we have something called the revocable trust, right? So it acts as a bucket, and you can fill it with your assets, and it's unlike a will. It doesn't take place until you pass, and the trust is active the day it's created. Okay. So when you're taking inventory of your asset, you want to take stock of your assets, right? We have a dashboard that allows you to do that. You can name your people, making sure you know exactly who in your life, is critical when it comes to the decision makers, right? Also, you could select certain individuals of your documents and making sure, like, whether your assets and your estate planning, who's doing what, your financial accounts, where are they? Do you have property in other countries, right? Mysteriously, all of this stuff all over the place, if it's not in one central location, no one's going to know, right? So I always make sure that, hey, you want to take inventory of your estate. So you want to be able to, one, create your financial power of attorney, complete your advanced care health care directive, and then of course make your will and or trust, right? So this is like just a quick little, post-signing checklist to kind of help you to do so. Okay. And then being able to communicate again what your wishes are and what you'd like to do. All right. You also have an opportunity to default certain important documents, and I can show you how you can put it on a jump drive and then where you're going to put it, right? This whole thing is about how do I organize myself when it comes to stuff, because if I don't know where it is, believe me, your family doesn't know either. Okay. Your family doesn't know. If you don't know, we're just clueless. We are really clueless. Okay. You may have something underneath the mat, in a floorboard somewhere, but if we don't have instructions, we're not going to know where to find it. All right. So, and also you want to grant that emergency person. Remember we talked about that executor? We want to be able to grant that emergency person access. Okay. So that the person could be able to know where to go, who to call, and what next to do. Okay, so you evolve with your estate, you live your life, having your stuff organized, right? You want to be able to use your wealth to track your estate, right? And you want to be able to evolve your plan when it comes to all of these things. So as a member, I make sure that everyone gets access to do this, right? Whether it's your will, your trust, right? It's part of the documents. We have access to 50 plus states, all the attorneys. If you want, you can pay $200 directly to an attorney, 30 minutes, right? If you want to have something more complicated, you have questions, if you just can't go through the questionnaire. So I really feel that this is something that's amazing to use, okay? So a couple of the services of what we offer when it comes to American Dreamers, like I said, we do insurance and different other strategies. Every member does also, you get my focus on what American Dreamers is, of course, making sure that you have your estate planning in place, you have your documents in place, and then showing you how to organize those things. Okay, so that's everything that we do when it comes to that. I'll put this up again, but let me show you one more thing. And I know that I'm looking the chat there. So I also wanted to talk about one of our financial organizer bags. So every member that's also becomes a member of American Dreamers, you get what we call a financial organizer bag. I heard someone earlier today talking about how there was a fire, correct? So imagine if you had to run out, to the hospital, right? And for whatever reason, you tell, hey, you know what, just go grab that bag that has everything in it. You just tell them exactly where it is. That's what I created. So it's a waterproof, fireproof, lockable bag with 13 folders to help you organize yourself. It is travel friendly, right? So every member also gets this amazing bag, right? There's a lot of fires in California, different states. You want to make sure that you have your stuff organized. And remember, people say, well, I've got a safe. My stuff are okay, Nakai. I'm pretty okay. And I say, well, can you run outside with your safe? Okay. If you're in a situation, no, you cannot, right? So this is the reason you can have the bag within the safe or somewhere else, right? Or you have this is the document documents with your passport. Where's your birth certificate? Where's your deeds, right? Anything for your car, backup keys, These are the types of things that all need to go into this kind of bag, right? It's a preparedness bag and it's emergency. Okay. So part of the campaign of what we're doing with American Dreamers is that I have something called the 100 Club. I'm looking for 100 families that I want to be able to literally just put out there when it comes to, hey, we all have our trust done. We're building our legacy, right? This is what we're doing. We're taking action when it comes to this. We're not just allowing the states to come in and then maybe getting your assets probated, right? And then we got to go through this lengthy process, right? You want to be able to have things in place. So as part of the 100 Club campaign, we want to be able to push that and have 100 families get into that. Okay, let me see what else. Hold on, and before I get into that price, hold on. Let's see what the questions are. Right. Yes. So she was also saying, Helen, a couple of like, who are your doctors? Yes. What meds are you on? All of that. Who's your insurance carrier? Those are all things that you want to be able to do that, right? You want to be able to make sure that with all of those documents that you have, that we know where to go, what you eat, what you don't eat, right? You can put all of those things within your plan when it comes to that, right? I see here someone was also talking about that they're dealing with something like that right now, right? That your brother passed without a will and estate plan November, and now you're trying to work through the mess. Horrible. Sorry to hear that, right? When it comes to that, this is a main reason why we need to tell our loved ones, we need to tell our family members, hey, you need to get this done, right? Because without this, it's super, super crazy, especially for our loved ones, right? So almost done so we can get to our questions. So what's the pricing, Nakai? Like, think about it. It's very, very simple, right? If you just want to be able to just get the bag and get the resources, right? We have the financial club, which is at $99 a year, very reasonable. Or if you want to get your trust, wills, and everything else done, healthcare directive, power of attorney, that's $399 one time. Again, I'm doing the 100 club, right? And again, that's literally for the 100 club members. Like, I really want to make a statement, especially with our people. Hey, this is what we're doing, right? This is regular, normally $8.99. I'm doing it $3.99, and it's $99 every year for the updates because you got the dashboard, right? So we want you to become a member. We want you to, have your legacy starting now. We want you to be able to create, your next legacy, right? You worked hard. Now it's time to protect it. That's really what it's about. So our goal is to, with American Dreamers, making sure that as a dreamer, we have a lot of dreamers, you worked hard, you want to pass on your legacy. Let's do it the right way, right? Let's plan, let's take an action. And again, I'm Nakai Lewis. I'll be taking some questions. I'll stop sharing and also drop this in the chat.
Okay, a lot of information there. Let's talk a little bit about, because I'm glad that you added the information. I'm trying to find my picture so I can join you on screen. Okay, I was glad that you added the information about the celebrities not having wills, because we hear about it so much, and call me a skeptic or what, but I just cannot believe that all of these Black entertainers are dying and none of them have wills, particularly people like Michael Jackson and Prince. Prince fought like hell to get his what do they call it when they get their records, his masters. I just find it incredible that he didn't protect them, and everybody knows that. Uh, with Michael Jackson, I didn't realize he didn't have a will, but his family just signed over his collection of, I don't know, Beatles or whatever prize music he had. So that I'm always skeptical when I hear that, but that's just me being a conspiracy theorist. But people don't have wills, and that's a big thing. So talk more about, because I think a lot of people think, well, I don't have anything. I don't have a house. I don't have this. I don't have that. So
Yeah, so
how
there's
does
things
that
that
be?
you could put in your will, right? You can put your laptop, you can put your cell phone, your computers, your paintings, your furniture, your favorite cooking pot, right? Who's going to get that favorite plant? Who's going to take care of that plant, right? All those things are all important. They belong to you. And guess what? They cannot fit in your grave. They just cannot, right? So it's got to go somewhere. So if it doesn't go in the garbage, you want to make sure that it's actually distributed to the right people who are going to appreciate it and they're going to take care of it. I did have one more thing I forgot to share, which is I wanted to show you what one of the estate planning reports look like. Sorry, one second. Which is basically when you go on, you get your individual trust and your pour over will done. This is a sample of kind of like what it looks like. You go through the questionnaires, you answer the questions, it'll show you what you need to do, which is super amazing. And then you get this beautiful report that you can print out and order. So it's literally, it'll come to you. It's a bunch of 30, 40 pages. And it's going to show and it's going to explain all the roles of everybody within your whole will or trust like that, right? So this is super, super important. So I wanted to show you that. For example, like your frozen genetic material, right? I mean, we know what that is, right? Okay. We want to make sure, see, like right now, there are currently over 1 million frozen embryos sitting in storage in the US, and the number of healthy women freezing eggs rose to about 12,438 in 2020, and from 7,193. I'm reading it out because I know some people are on phones, so they can't really see it, right? So this is a couple things like who's the special trustee for that? Who's the executor, your primary, your backup, right? And then your backup, right? You want to make sure and kind of have that all taken care of. Who are the decision makers for your children, the roles of the guardians, right? We got that there. What about your pet? Your little cute little cat, right? Your cute little puppy. Where is he? Who's he gonna go to? He's gonna be living, so you can leave money for your pet too, and a gift for the caretaker to take care of the pet, just in case. Think about that. So it doesn't have to be a big fancy car, but it could be your little rover. Okay. So, and then we have payments and distributions based on your trust, non-probate versus probate. It's kind of explain that, what's skipping assets, your contractual rights, right? Assets you could put through the trust, all of that. They break down a lot of this stuff in this document when you do it and you go through the questionnaire. Okay. Payments, so your debts, right? Your taxes, your expenses, which is the funeral expenses, right? Your personal objects. What about your jewelry? What about your favorite little pearl necklace? Like, who's that going to go to, right? That's all amazing things. Your cash in your bank has to go somewhere. You can designate your beneficiary, but you also need to put it on the will too, because it becomes part of the whole probate process. Because and that's another thing most people don't know is that the minute you pass away, everything you own is frozen. Okay. It's like they just hit a button in the health system and it's like, bloop, they're gone. And the next thing your husband or wife, they're trying to get access to the bank account. Oh my God, I'm locked out. I can't get in. I can't pay the bills. I can't do anything. This is why it's super, super important to make sure you understand all this stuff, right?
Well, you rush to the bank to get everything out before you tell them that the person's deceased. I'm just
Exactly.
saying.
I'm just saying you might want to do that too. Yeah, yeah. Make sure that you got, some cash on hand. Okay. All right. And the distribution of specific gifts, you can actually say, you know what, I had grandpa's watch from World War III. It's going to go to my child, right? Or my wine collection. See someone have a wine collection here, $52,000, my diamond wedding ring, right? That's a total of $76,000 right there. And you don't even that's not even a house. Right? So don't ever say, well, I don't have anything of value. You do. Everything has value, including you.
If it's not financial value, it has sentimental value. I know a friend of mine, her family had a squabble over an old photo. Who would get it? A
The
photo.
most,
And of course, you
yes,
can get remakes of a photo, but they wanted the original photo. So you just never know. I always think of my Aunt Lillian, who before she wasn't even sick, we thought she was sick or something, but she knew that she was getting up in age. She was going to sell her house and downsize her living. She literally called you over. If you always liked that fur coat, she gave it to you. If you liked the chandelier, she gave it to you. So you were thinking like, is she not well? But she was quite well. But there were to be no fuse when she died, and she had her funeral and everything laid out to the point, just from what she would wear. It's just amazing. Can you talk for a minute to
sure.
Nakai about because I was saying when my mother died, we were young, we were in our 20s, and I remember just going to the funeral parlor with the insurance policy, and they were like, no problem. And we were in our 20s, we didn't have money to put up front. and they just did everything based on their funeral, on the
Yes.
insurance policy. But you said they don't do that anymore. Did you tell me that?
Right. So it depends what type of policy that they have. It's there's specific policies that do specific things, right? So if it's a whole life final expense, yes. Most people say, well, I have insurance. I'm good, but then come to find out they don't have the right type or that type of policy is actually going to be you know, after the fact, right? They're going to get it maybe 60 to 90 days later, right? If it's an accidental policy and it's cheaper, like, oh, I'm paying $5, $10 a month, that's normally accidental. That means you only can get cashed out whether you're dying in an airplane or a car, it's a moving vehicle, right? So that's not the type of policy. You need a final expense, and you also need something that's going to plan for the funeral, right? So we also make sure that all of our clients also have that, and we do have free funeral planning solutions too as well that you gets included.
Yeah, I think also, let's talk. And Connie McGee, I'm going to call you out on this call. Can I add you to the screen? Because I know Connie is an attorney who does, um, she does this type of law. I see her on
Except
here.
sometimes I can't spell recipe right. Okay.
Can I bring you on screen? Because I'm sure people might have some questions that you might want to answer as well. It's up to you. You
Well,
don't, you
I'd
can,
rather not. I'm here to
okay,
learn as well because we do learn from our colleagues, and I'm so pleased to
good.
meet Nikki Lewis.
Very
Hey,
good. Nick,
I mean, I'll
hi.
bring my face up, but that's about it.
Yeah, that's okay, no problem. But if
Okay.
you can so interject because you have another person, because as Nakai said, she's not an attorney. So if somebody needs clarity on something, please feel free to jump in.
Oh, I think she's
Um,
doing excellent, really. This is
I think
great.
so too. I think she has good
Yeah.
vibes. I like it. And thank
thank
you
you.
again, Maritza, for sharing Nakai with us.
Yeah.
Um,
So I also just quickly just interject. I dropped for anyone on the chat, I dropped a link that you can pretty much put your name and information. And then if you want to be able to download, I have like a checklist sheet of different questions you just kind of want to ask yourself. It's like a pre-planning worksheet to kind of help you with your process. Like I said, my goal is to get this information out there. I work with attorneys all the time if you want to sit down and do something more extensive. But for those who are working with a budget and they're like, I don't really have, enough money to do that, but I want to get this done. I don't want money to become a barrier, right? There's licensed attorneys in there. If you have other questions, it's really a DIY. Just do it yourself.
okay. And let me ask you, so as somebody had a question about the $99, my perception is that someone could sign, do the preliminary with you and then maybe just check back with you on an as needed basis. Like if I did the $99 plan, is that right? Or am I
Yeah, so
mistaken?
the $99, you get a welcome box. You'll be part of the American Dreamers Club. You'll get the bag, right? The whole goal is I need the bag. I need to organize my life. Let me get the financial organizer bag. So you get that. And then I do offer a complimentary like legacy tool, right? That'll also allow you to kind of just get the basic, like if you just need a basic will done, there is a part that's included as part of the membership that'll allow you to do so. If you're trying to get your will, your trust, your healthcare directive, the power of attorney, all those things, then I'll more recommend the $399 plan that again allows you to do that in all 50 states. And it's state regulated and approved for that.
Okay, cool, very good. Um, so, and I love the idea that that the initiative for you is your aunt. That's pretty powerful. And I thought that when you gave the stats about the 29% of Black folks have a will, that's a lot of us without a will. And don't think because people are attorneys or what have you that they have wills, because a lot of us don't either. We tell you to
I
do
know,
it, but I'm
I
here to tell
know.
you I'm guilty myself. But yeah, so that's a low number. And I would ask if we could, if I don't know, I can't see everybody because it would be interesting to know how many people on this call don't have a will.
Yes,
Judy,
yeah, I would definitely put in the chat who does not have a will or a healthcare
yeah,
directive, financial power of attorney. That's what
yeah. And
I'm
I
trying
don't
to.
think we think about the catastrophic. I think people don't want to talk about death. And Connie, this is something that maybe you can help me explain better than I can. I know that at a certain point in our lives, We should not have assets in our name because if in fact there's a catastrophic situation, I think you have to deplete all of your assets down to like $2,000 before you can get help from the government. And just being in a nursing home or assisted living, it's very expensive. It will deplete all of your funds. But every state is different. Some states say that you have to have remove those things from your name, um, 3 years before the catastrophic incident. Some are 5 years before the catastrophic incident. And you really need to think about that. And who do you trust that you can move your things into their name and they will not put you in a or put you in a home or whatever. I mean, that's a big trust factor. Who do you
So there are
trust?
two things in the chat that I'm going to mention. So Valerie mentioned that, while waiting on the insurance company to pay, the funeral home charges the cost or waiting for the funds. It was about $250. Then she was fortunate in being able to pay for her mom's funeral because she had access to her funds. That's why it's super important to put these specific type of policies that you can get paid out, the family members, within 48 to 72 hours, right? You want to make sure that you have this kind of plan within your insurance. So this is something that I do, which I'm a licensed, agent in that field. So I always just take an overlook. Like, I'm not here to go over anyone's work. I'm here to make sure our people are protected and your family has a peace of mind. So that's something that she
And
did.
also, I think on that, we don't have in the old days, we had black funeral parlors and everybody, like I'm from South Jersey, everybody went to Carl Miller, like everybody, so they knew there was a relationship. Either you had a relationship with the funeral parlor through the church, or just because they were the parlor funeral director who had service families in that area. I don't know that we have that. I think even now we have white folks who have entered into handling death funeral arrangements for our community. Connie, did you have a question? I see your
Well,
hand.
more or less a comment to what someone in the chat said about having a safe and a bag. And, my attorney also safe keeps. It's so important. I love the suitcase idea that you brought up. But as an attorney, I do not keep any original documents. Okay. None whatsoever. I've had more people call and say, well, I know my father came to see you and he has a will. Did you prepare his will? So, no, I didn't. And the only thing I might have would be a copy, but I don't keep original documents. I am aware that there's a pilot program, and I think Essex might be one, where if you prepare a will today, you're able to record the fact that you do have a will that was prepared today, but not the contents of the will. And at least that's some protection there if, the item is lost. But safekeeping is so important.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Thank you, Connie. I see two other hands. Did you have something you were going to say, Nakai?
Yeah, I was reading two comments in the chat. 1 second. So for example, let's see, Joanne said, oh, well, Joanne is about to speak. So we'll just let her speak and then I can answer the next question.
Joanne, what's your question? Ms. Ware?
I don't have a question. My mother died November 9th, 2023. She prepared us for this day. She had put $4,000 up so we can open the grave. She gave us a list of all her investments, all her bills, her checking account, and everything. I was the power of attorney, so I did all the everyday things, maintain the bills, everything like that. When we let the investments, the banks know that she had passed, they start sending all our money in thirds. My brother got a third, I got a third, and I got a third. We have one more to get, but the problem is my brother, who's an executor, has to come from California, and we have to put the will in probate. She had us prepared from day one, ever since my father died in 1967. And even before she died, she had the obituary written. She had the pictures she wanted done, and she rechecked it like a week or 2 weeks before she passed away. But it was still hard. And I had done that myself in preparing my son what to do, where things are, and everything in my apartment. And I learned from her, and she's a testament to that. She died 92. She was 92 years old when she passed, and she affected a lot of people in politics, and she has a name in city of Plainfield City Hall named after her, named Elizabeth A. Urquhart. So I can tell you how much influence she did in Plainfield. But I'm just
Yeah.
giving that example, is preparing us. Because when my friends died, I used to call, Mom, what you I supposed to do? And she told me to call the funeral home, call this person, that person. But she's not here to do that for me if one of my friends passed. But I've been
Right.
prepared for that. And we don't. So I prepared
Yeah.
my son. And so he could do it. When his father died, I took him to the funeral home to see how the preparation is, how much cost it is, and everything. And I told him, I said, listen, I know you like your father, but we ain't going crazy, okay? We're going to put him away nicely. I cremated him and everything. It was a nice funeral, and it only cost me over $5,000. My mother, hers cost 11, because we buried her next to my father. But I
You know,
just,
that's a good point you make, Miss Ware. And like I said, I lost my mother 37 years ago. We were young. And what I've learned is that it's such an emotional time and you're so caught up in it and you want them to have the best of everything. And you go to that funeral parlor and they tell you how you should have the Cadillac casket. And you know what? If you've made those decisions in advance, you're not going to make emotional, spontaneous decisions because your loved one is gone. They don't care. I remember them telling us this one's waterproof, bugs won't get, like, are you kidding me? But you fall for it because you're emotional and they left you this money. You want them to go. I'm telling you, planning in advance. I see you laughing, Connie. You hear it all the time, right? But it's true. It's like you're emotional and you just make bad decisions. Not bad decisions, but it's a waste of money. And do what feels comfortable for you. You want to put somebody away comfortable. But if you've done this talk in advance, and for whatever reason we don't want to talk about death, like like if I talk about, like, one of my friends, her sisters wanted to talk about it and she felt like they were plotting on her things. And I'm like, I don't think so. I think, because she had a situation where she ended up in the hospital and they realized, like, we don't know where any of your things are. But then when they asked her about it, she got very hostile. And one of her sisters she died not speaking to because of that. And I really think that the sister just wanted to know, what do we do? Because she was single, no children. Where's your stuff? So, but that's
but
a
I had
big
my
one.
friend
Go
with
ahead, Nikkei.
me. I had my friend with me who we've been friends for
Hi.
55 years. And the lady that did the funeral, I used to babysit her.
Mhm.
And we knew the family over, the grandmother, the mother, and now her daughter. And now she's teaching her son to be a funeral director. So it was very helpful in that, and my girlfriend who was there, because I walked through it, but for 3 weeks, I don't know where I was. I couldn't even, I'm going through the motions of life, but 3 weeks, I lost time when she passed.
Sure,
I
sure.
just lost time.
Yes, I was going to mention because someone put in the chat, well, I already have everything paid. I already got my graveside and I got my funeral paid. But yes, but there's also other expenses, right? There's the food, there's the gathering after, there's sometimes you got to fly certain family members in who don't have money, but they want to be there for your funeral, right? So this is another reason why you need to have those final expense type insurance policies in place that have, and maybe it's not a lot of money. It's like 20, 30,000 if you could afford it, so that those other expenses that you didn't foresee can be taken care of. Right.
Right.
So I wanted to mention that. And then secondly, do check if you purchased your grave, slot years ago. People change, hands. My grandmother was like 80 something years old. She bought her grave site. She bought mine, right? And then, she calls the guy and the guy's like, oh, no, we don't know anything about that. She paid in cash years ago. Centuries ago. She's 80 something now, right? And he's like, well, I bought over the company. I don't see your paperwork, ma'am. I don't know what you're talking about. Matter of fact, I already put somebody in your spot. Okay. So think about
Yeah,
that, right?
yeah.
Like how hard horrifying is that for your family to even find out and know?
Mhm. I can see that happening. Go ahead, Connie.
Well, I just wanted to add, and I'm so glad Nikki talked about these
We keep
funeral
messing up her name. It's
expenses and
Nikai.
It's
Nakai.
Nakai.
Okay,
Think like
I
Mac and
say
I, honey.
Nikki. So
Nakai. Okay.
Nakai. Thank you. Nakai. Okay. But it's wonderful that you mentioned things that happen when someone passes. And although we may not like to think about it, we all don't pass away in our sleep. So if the person who died is the victim of a crime, there is a victim of crimes compensation board in the state of New Jersey and in most states nationwide, and they will actually compensate the victims who may be the husband or the wife or the children, even bystanders standards. And the only thing is that the victim or victims who have been affected would file an application with the Victim of Crimes Compensation Board. They're right down at 50 Park Street, 5th and 6th floor in Newark, and they're all over the state. But they actually pay compensation of up to $20,000 for mental health counseling. They pay towards funeral expenses. I don't remember the dollar amount, but it's a couple of $1,000s. They pay relocation expenses. There's a laundry list of expenses that are paid if you are a victim. It could be a hit and run.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, it might be a crime. I happen to be a criminal defense attorney, so I get all of this from both sides. But I just think it's real important that people know, and you can go online and Google VCCB and see what the benefits are, because that's so important when the catastrophic event, it happens, and then everybody emotionally is like, what do we do? How do we resolve this? Where's the money coming from? And so this is all for you.
That's interesting because you said even a bystander. So if in fact there's,
Mhm.
I witness a drive-by, I'm
Mhm.
devastated, I'm having nightmares, there's compensation possibly out there for me to get treatment.
I'm going to see someone tomorrow to do a power of attorney, and they happen to be immobile. They're not able to really travel. And they explained that they were the victim of a hit and run. So I
Oh
wasn't
no.
even listening for that, but I can actually represent that person on the hit and run accident, not personal injury, but because they were a victim, and there's a difference. If they want the personal injury, they can go to a personal injury attorney. That's not what I do. But in terms of the victims, I can certainly help that way. So that was like a side, something that benefit that came up just going to see this person.
Right. Um, Nikai, you talked about when we talked personally, you're talking about passwords. Can you talk about that and the kinds of passwords that people might want to start collecting from their loved ones or make a part of their
Yes,
package?
absolutely. So that's passwords is of course it's actually the 12th folder in the bag, this financial bag, which you get like the whole every folder what you need to have copies of. So subscriptions, your banking passwords, your phone passwords, whether it's a 4-digit code, because sometimes, of course, if we don't have your face, you're going to need to put a code, right? If it's a thumb, all those things are important, right? Because all the phones are being updated with these stuff. Also from your sign in for, like, let's say Social Security, right? If there's some stuff there, your insurance, right? Knowing how to log into their different apps, and of course your social media accounts, super, super important, right? Because we need to be able to post something and let people know or notify that, hey, this person is no longer here, in loving memory. There's something called legacy accounts with Facebook, to especially how we could put it into a legacy account of notifying and letting them know that, hey, this person is no longer here. But online through your social media, you can literally live on, right? And your family members can use that and manage that for you, forever, really and truly. Yeah.
I look at the situation that I'm in, like even banking, people don't get paper statements anymore.
Yes.
So if you're banking online, if somebody doesn't know where you bank, so they can't physically go to the bank, if you're not getting statements at your house, because in our situation it was like, well, go through the mail, see what you can find. You can't find anything because people don't get paper stuff anymore. It's all online and it's all password protected. And now a lot of these have, what do they call it? The double identification
It's
thing.
a yes, it's the two secure. Basically,
Right.
with the secured, it has to go to the phone. So another thing that's super important is your cell phone. Within my family, everyone was arguing over my aunt's cell phone because that was the access. Because she was expecting certain funds. You get the text codes, everyone's calling that phone. So we've had the nurse steal the phone, you know, steal jewelry from her. It was just a lot of things happen that you just don't really expect. Okay. So just understanding that you have that specific person that you need to call and say, hey, something, I'm not feeling good. This is where this is. All the instructions are there. I planned it out. You really need to take time and make that happen.
I'm going to share a story. I was dating this guy. I wasn't dating him when he passed, but I knew him to be very meticulous and have things in order. And I know with all my life that he had a will. He was just that kind of guy. He had a good sister and he had a horrible sister. And the good sister was by his side, of course, at the hospital when he passed, and she's handling things there. Oh, the bad sister rushes to the house because he had no children, he had no spouse. She rushes to the house. She has a key. She takes laptops, computers, anything that she could move, she's moving out of the house. And even his car, he had a nice Lexus. She takes everything that she can put her hands on. And the good sister, when she gets there, she's devastated because if there was a will, so the reason I'm making this point is I'm sure he had a will, but clearly he had not shared with anybody where the will was. And a lot of people, as Connie said, you assume, attorney Higginbotham did the will. That doesn't mean she has a copy of it. And I would think most attorneys don't keep copies, and the attorney has no way of knowing, even if it's the last copy, unless they just recently did it. So, because remember, if I did a will in 2020, and then I do another one in 2022, it voids out whatever I said in 2020. So people will be looking for the last will. And then somebody made a point in the chats that Aretha Franklin had a holographic will, which means a handwritten will, which are not legal in all states. They are legal in New Jersey. But so if you don't have a formal will, at least commit things to writing. And as long as it's your signature within the four corners of the paper, and that can be verified, in many cases that will hold up. But so having a will is one thing, but somebody knowing where the will is much more important. So I
Yes,
always think of that
absolutely.
story.
And not only that, the assets, someone put in the chat, well, I thought like your spouse gets the house and the bank accounts. Yes, in a way, right? But it's got to go through probate. And then
Right.
if your asset, like if you have a house asset and it's not in a trust, guess what? It's going through probate. Guess what's in probate? Cost, estate planning costs. Did you plan for that? Did you know
Sure.
that they had estate planning costs and tax and all that stuff they have to pay to get the asset? No, right? So that's why it's
But
super
that's a
important.
good point, Charlotte. There is a line of distinction most states have. If in
Mhm.
fact you die and you don't have a will, if you have a spouse, they usually are the first person to get it. If you don't have a spouse, then it's children. If you don't have children, I think that sometimes what's it go to next, Connie? The parents. But anyway, so each state is different. And if there's not a will, but again, if it's in probate and it's not a whole lot, trust me, you're eating up all your funds if you engage in battle with your loved ones over silly stuff, at the end of the day, nobody gets anything because some lawyer and court fees and all that, you walk away with nothing. So you really want to sit down and have these conversations, work out whatever you can in advance because it will come back to bite you. Kilty, I see you have a problem. You said, where do you recommend people keep their will or important papers? In her box.
In the
In her
financial
bag.
organizer box, it's waterproof, it's fireproof, okay? and you want to put it where someone could find it or where you can hand it to them. And if I didn't mention, it has a GPS locator that comes with it. Okay, so I've thought of everything.
Oh, that's good. That is good. That's very good. Any other questions in the chat? I'm kind of scanning them as we go along. Kilby is
Yes.
usually my right hand. Kilby, do you see anything in the chat? And Judy. Yeah, Judy talks about the time that it takes to go through probate. But I also want us to really walk away from this thinking about, even though something may not have monetary value, it has sentimental value. And and listening to Nikai speak, I'm thinking, you don't care about the furniture or the old, LP collection, but somebody will. And, you hate to go that, you're thinking, I'm leaving, let them fight over it. But honestly, it gets to be really bad. So where we can avoid that, we really want to avoid our family having to have that nasty, nasty fight. And I
So
think everybody on this call can tell a story about some family that just fell apart over stupid stuff, like $100 in an account or something dumb. You'd be like, really, y'all fighting over that? But yeah, people do. Go ahead, Nikai, I'm sorry.
yeah, no worries. So for that first link that I had put, if you just put your information, that you could download this free, right? Which is, I wanted everyone to make sure they had this at least at minimum to walk away with the estate planning pre-meeting worksheet. Okay, so this is a pre-meeting worksheet, right? Which is a couple simple questions you think about, right? Who do you trust to handle your finances if you're unable to manage them yourself? You want to name 2 people, right? So this would be your executor, your trustee, and your agent. Now, question number 2, who do you trust to decide what medical treatments you should receive? You also want to choose at least 1 person, ideally 2. This would be the person, your healthcare agent, your healthcare directive, power of attorney. They'll pretty much be able to execute that. Question 3, do you trust these people to make healthcare decisions for you, even if you have not been completely lost mental capacity? Yes or no, right? No, I want my medical team to do it. Or yes, you want them to do it, right? Again, this is the power that you give somebody. So make sure you really trust these people. Question 4, who do you trust to raise your children if both you and your other parent weren't being able to? For some reason, you guys both were not in the picture. You also want to name the first person and the second person. These would be the guardian of your children. Question 5, who would get the bulk of what you own at your death? Do you want to give one person all your assets or split your assets into percentages? Who's your heir? Your heir number 2, your heir number 3. This person will be the primary beneficiary of your residuary estate. If you're married, of course, then that person will be your spouse. Question 6, if your spouse or partner passes away before you, who should get the bulk of whatever you own at your death? You've got to have another. Think about that. Your heir 1, your heir 2, your heir 3. How many percentage between those people, right? This person be the secondary beneficiary of your estate. Question 7, are there any meaningful personal objects or cash amounts that you would like to give a specific person at your death? You want to give this person 1,000, this person 2,000, whatever it is. You also want to itemize that. All of that goes in your will, right? So that document was something there that I did share in the chat for you guys.
That is an excellent document. It makes you think about so many things that you just don't, like, who thinks, I don't have children, but yep, who's going to take care of my kids? Who do you trust to do that? Do you trust your kids? You're a grown person. Your kids are, do you trust that your children will do right? I have a friend who I lost so much respect for because his aunts never had children, left him in charge of their belongings, and he did not honor their wishes. And I guess they rest comfortably. We don't know, but who do you trust? Yeah, go ahead, Miss Roach. You have a question?
Yes. How is it possible to get the financial bag packet?
You said, how is it possible to get the financial bag?
Packet, right.
Oh, yes, when you become a member. So I did share my number. If you like, I can walk you through that.
I got in late, so.
Oh, okay. No problem. Let me put it in the chat again, my business card.
Just give me the number.
Okay. It's 646-742-6955. 7008.
Okay.
That's my cell
Put
phone
that,
number.
yeah, and put that in the chats for people who also might have come in late too. You know, the other thing I want us to walk away from this call thinking about is many of us live alone. Even if you don't live alone, if you have an accident and you're in your house, uh, we need to be reaching out to someone every day, even if it's just, I mean, have somebody that you send a text message that says I'm alive and I'm okay, or just anything. I just think and we think only old people, but you know, I can be a 30-year-old and fall off a ladder in my apartment. I can slip in the bathtub. You know, will people know that you're not okay? So I think if we can all, you know, be proactive and get in the habit of speaking to someone daily, or you know, just somebody, and not the same person almost, I want to say, because that way that person will know. And does somebody else have keys to your house? If somebody needed to access your apartment, your home, would they be able to? And you know, and I'm talking, this is self-talk, right? Because I'm the same. Do we have, when we go to the doctors, are we indicating who is the emergency contact? These are things that we don't think about until we find ourselves in these situations. And trust me, I'm learning the hard way. All this stuff is important. And those questions that Nikai just gave us, I hope you all made note of them. And of course, this will be available on video, but you really want to think about all those kinds of things. And I encourage that you work with her or somebody, but let's start dealing with these issues before they become an issue. Because you know what? It could happen tomorrow. I could walk out here tomorrow and get hit by a car and end up, you know, comatose in a hospital. And people like, who's her doctor? Who's her insurance? Where does she work? You know, people don't know these things. Or I could be, you know, killed. And then all those questions are still. So somebody needs to know something about you. Donna saying she fell down the steps. Thank God she was able to get up, but she was home alone and lots of bruises. You know, I think, you know, we have those, what do you call those, life alert buttons or whatever? We should all probably have one, whether we're old, whether we live alone or whatever. We should all have something. I understand, and maybe you know better, Nakai, that on some of the smartphones, if you're having a catastrophe, it alerts. Is that right? Somebody was telling me that they have an iPhone, which I don't have. I'm still an Android girl. But
Yeah, she said
she
the
said if
Apple
you,
Watch has a fall alert. Mhm.
okay, yeah, if she's exerting herself in the house or whatever, her phone will ask her, "Are you okay?"
Yes, yes, some phones can do that. Absolutely.
But then I guess you also have to set it up. So if you say yes, if you say no, like, does the phone know what to do? So does the phone automatically, you have to set it up to automatically call my friend, call
Already
emergency,
have
or I
certain
don't.
AI components to it, like it reads or it kind of knows, especially on the Apple side. They
Hi,
have a lot.
Helen. This is Josephine. On my Apple Watch, it's set up to call 911 if I don't respond to it in a certain amount of time. And I also have something on my watch called a road ID. I got it because I'm often out jogging by myself, that has my husband's number on it, my children's number on it. So if I fall and can't get up, the first thing that the watch will do will be call 911. It can also dial my husband as well, but you do have to set it up.
Do they have that on the Android? Anybody have it? Because you said you have an iPhone, right, Miss Thomas?
Yes.
Does anybody on here have that? I have an Android. I don't even know if they have it. Do they have it on the Android devices? Does anyone know? No, I guess
I'm not
not.
sure on Android. Something did come to mind though. I also wanted to make sure that you ladies that do have policies already in place, there's over $1 billion every year of policies not being claimed because you think that, okay, I have a policy and your family's going to mysteriously get notified about it. It doesn't work that way. They're going to keep the money. Okay.
Yes.
We have to know where it is. So if you have someone on there that's a beneficiary, they've got to know, the executor's got to know, or at least keep a copy in my bag. So when they find your bag amongst the stuff, they know exactly where the policies are. A lot of people buy policies and then you just shove it somewhere, right? No, that's why we got to review the policy. I review my policies with my clients every year, making sure you have enough, make sure you have the right thing, making sure it's not expiring. If you have a term and it expired, and you have up until age 85 to get policies to put these things in place. And then after that, you're done. So you want to make sure that you're also reviewing these things and have them ready available.
About paying for, a lot of people are being cremated. So if I pay for that now, I don't die for another 20 years. What happens? Is
And
it
if that
still?
company goes out of business or disappears, guess what? That money again is wasted, right? That's why it's also important. Yes, we love that you prepay things, but again, companies do change hands. They do go out of business. They do run away with money because it's the funeral business, the death business. Like, people are doing a lot of scammy things. Okay. So you want to be careful of that. And that's why if you have a policy, no matter what year it is, if you're 150, right, it's going to pay out, right? And they could take care of those things. So just keep that in mind.
That's such a good thing, because I would think I paid for it, but you're right. If the company's gone and you're not here to fight it, and whoever probably doesn't even have the receipt that shows that you paid for it. Kilthea, you have a question? Kilthea?
No, I had a comment.
Okay.
I don't know how it is with, well, at least it used to be, and I would assume it still is the case, that when you prepay, say you prepay a funeral and you do it, say I do it with May Funeral Home, it actually is going into an account that's managed by the state. So I could at any time say, well, I no longer want to go with them. I want to go with Carl Miller or something like that, so that your money is secure. And I'm not sure how they're handling cremations, but it would seem like that would be something similar if you're paying in with a legitimate funeral home, that they are actually in a system, a state-run system that actually makes sure that people don't run away with folks' money. So,
That's a hard one. Wanda, I know you're on this call. You have some experience around some of this. What has been some of your experience about people and prepaying and Wanda? I don't know if I see her. I don't know if she's here or not. But yeah, so anybody have anything else that you just want to share about your own experiences or questions that you might have about just any of this? Have you even thought about it? What made you get on this call today? What was the impetus? Ms. Johnson, go ahead. You have a question?
Excuse me, I wanted to make a comment about the
Sure.
prepaid account, because I have one in New Jersey. And what you have to do is designate a funeral home that you work with. So I actually sat down with this particular funeral home, made out my arrangements, and then it's handled by, it's called Choices. And it's the New Jersey Prepaid Funeral Trust Fund. If when you die, your family decides they don't want to use that particular funeral home, the money is still held. And the good thing about prepaying it is, one, it's something that your family doesn't have to worry about. But also, this is something that Medicaid and Medicare, you know how when you die, they try and go after your estate and stuff. They cannot get this money. So I think it offers comfort to your family. And you can also pay into the account. It's an interest-bearing account, and you can pay above what your funeral costs. So, like, for example, I'm at the point where I'm paying off the cost of my funeral, but I'm going to put extra money in the account to pay for programs, to pay for flowers, to pay for food. So that's it.
I love that, everybody. You know what? When I'm gone, I ain't worried about none of that. If Johnny can't get here, Johnny, you saw me last
Right.
time, be happy. I just, I can't. And so let me make a cut. So those of you who are on this call who know me, I don't even want a funeral. I love what I think the Muslims, the person dies, they have to bury them, I think within 24 hours or before, and the Jews do the same thing. But what I like that the Muslims do, 40 days out, they gather and have I don't think they call it a party, but for me, it'll be a party. So yeah, y'all just meet on somewhere near water and have a good time. But we're not doing all that moaning and crying and whatever. So so it's on record. So if I die, y'all just pull out this video. This is what I want.
And I agree, but it's got to be something they can use. Like I'm going to be cremated. I don't want to do the casket and all that stuff. Scatter my
Yeah,
ashes on Broad Market Street, and I'm happy.
absolutely. But we have to memorialize these things, whether it's on it, and and I'm being facetious, but Nikai, I guess we could do like a video recording. This is what I want. This is my last will and testament, and it's on. Yeah, it doesn't have to be written. So in
Mhm.
this day of audio and video, do your thing. We have two hands. Kilty, I know your hand is up. Somebody else's hand is up too. Go ahead, Kilty. What's your question or your comment?
Well, I guess my comment is that based on a what do you call it, vision board meeting that we had, it's been a couple of years ago now. We established a few accountability groups, and one of them was Write a Will.
That's right.
And there's some ladies on here from Write a Will. Everybody's far ahead of me. I have been dragging, and I'm single, no children, and just kind of been stuck. I have a will that's outdated, and I want to update it, and I never did execute my power of attorney or my healthcare proxy. So, part of it is just the resistance, and I guess not wanting to, just being stuck. So I've been stuck for
Got
a
your
while.
mortality, Kilthea. We're all gonna leave.
We got to leave here. We can't stay. We cannot stay. I do know that. But I've been kind of stuck. And so I just wanted to kind of put that out there, and we've been doing, people have done great. It's a small group, and some ladies have done everything, and so the other women I think have children. So someone asked me a question. Karen Thomas said, "What's the name of the prepaid company you were using?" I don't have a prepaid company. I haven't done any of that. But if you go to any funeral home, you are going to be, that will connect you directly with that state system. I think someone else said what the name of the
Robin says Shore Trust Choices, New Jersey Prepaid Funeral Trust Fund.
There you go. Thank
And
you.
also remember, folks, remember this word. I never forget it from law school. If you don't have things in place, you don't have anything to anybody to leave things to, it is sheets. Remember that ugly word, Connie? It is sheets to the state, meaning that they take it. And you've paid enough to act taxes and whatever to them. And the state will come in and just take everything. You don't want that to happen. So definitely, leave somebody in play. Go ahead, Miss Rogers. What's your question or comment?
Mine is a comment, and just to share that I lost my parents early, like in my mid-20s, and my father had a living trust. So amongst 7 siblings, we had no issues at all. We had none of the typical problems that family has when someone dies. So I decided to do a living trust early. But my husband, who is one of those, what is it, 70 some odd percent that does not like talking about death, does not like talking about dying. He thinks it's morbid that I wrote my obituary. So, because I used to write them for family members that passed. So I wrote mine so no one would have to worry about it. And I had to create a living trust married, but how I wanted my personal property to go. And so I just wanted to put that out there for people that are married. And if you are not, you and your spouse aren't on equal footing in that, you can create one. And it's just, if you own a home, your 50% of the home, you can determine, who it would go to, or, whatever property assets that you have together.
Right. And also, if I'm not mistaken, when we have a trust, it also protects your assets, doesn't it? from lawsuits and taxes and things of that nature. Something I was listening to, and the guy said he doesn't own anything. It's either in an LLC or it's in a trust. So you can never come after him for anything. So those are things to think about. But
And just as an addition, I
mhm.
put the majority of my bank accounts in the trust, but I left one out so that they can have access to cash, right away without having to go through the executor. So
Right. Very good point. Again, I say as soon as the person closes their eyes, if you know where their money is, go get it. Dance with all that stuff later, but get the money because the bank's going to freeze it. And you have things to do in the interim that you're not thinking about. Their mortgages due or whatever's happening. There are things that you'll need to do. If there's kids involved, you need to buy food or whatever, keep the things going. So if you know where that money is, I'm telling you, run and get it. Thank you, Ms.
Yeah.
Rogers.
I
Were you
just wanted to
finished?
interject from someone who put into the chat. It was two questions, which was one, like who do you choose as your agent when doing your estate planning or wills? That was the first question. So when it comes to that, right? Like I said, most life insurance agents like myself, we have access to those tools, right, to help our clients. So kind of, work it through. I'm making sure that's why I built a platform literally around this to help people get it done. Thank you to Maritza. Maritza sent me someone. She was 77 years old here in New Jersey, and she came to my office and she got her will and everything done. I let her sit on the computer and she went through it and she did it herself at 77. And I was so proud of her, so it can be done. So if you need to update your stuff, we do have the tools necessary to help you update it, very affordable. If you want to be able to afford an attorney, you can. But again, there's a lot of tools that allow you to do that. And that's why I have American Dreamers and I partnered with Wealth, right? Because I'm paying a bigger fee for the platform. So that's why I have members so that I can sustain it and be able to keep, updating. And we have this as a collective. And again, like you said, it's very time consuming. It's all about the person. So you want to make sure that you're, with someone who's going to be on top of you to get it done.
Let me ask Dee before she signs off because she's in the UK. Dee, was this information relevant or helpful to you? Being in another country, do you tend to have, the same kinds of issues or
Yeah, it's
whatever?
I think over here it's yeah, if you don't have a will, the state, everything's will be frozen, and then yeah, the state will take it. Because I got a will done before I went through a divorce, because I thought if I die, my ex could end up coming in and taking everything. So I got a will done to make sure everything went to my son. But like life has changed since then, so I need to update, because the only thing that I put specifically in my son's name was my teaching pension. That I got a document, I filled it in, and I made sure that if anything happened to me, my teaching pension went to my son, because I knew if I hadn't have done that, that would have automatically went to the state, and I didn't work that hard and pay all that money in for the state to get my money. So in terms of, I don't know, because I'd have to look into it about probate, and I don't know what happens. I've tried to have the discussion with my son. He's my only son, and he's like, "Mom, no, you're gonna be here forever." No, I'm not. He doesn't want to talk about it. We need to talk about it, because if I drop dead tomorrow, you need to be prepared and ready for it. So I have to do it in very subtle ways.
Yeah. Dee brought up two things about her conversation brought up two things to mind for me. One, and Connie, you can attest to this too, or any other attorneys who are on this call. If you are married and you're not with your spouse, you separated, you never got divorced, you need to get a divorce.
Yep.
Because if you don't have a will, when you die, people will show up at the funeral like you didn't even know Helen was ever married and she just never got a divorce. And it could be 20 years. You could not know who this person is. And ladies, if you're living with these men and you're not married to them, you're not protected. I hate to tell you. let's say he was married, but he's been living with you for 20 years. His wife is still his surviving heir. So if you're
Mhm.
spending a lot of time with a guy, or if you're in a relationship, just handle. We have to have these conversations. Just because, if you left somebody, make sure you're divorced from that person. Because that person who you haven't seen in 20 years, who you absolutely hate, one, they can decide whether or not they're going to pull the plug or let you live. Like it's somebody you don't even know, may not even like, but they are that's your surviving heir. So you want to make sure that you handle that. And one
The other
example I always try to share with people too is I'm sure you all remember 9/11, and there was so much money for the survivors of the victims of 9/11. There was a young guy, black guy. I think he was in New Jersey or New York, but in that area. He's 30. He doesn't have a will. Um, his father, deadbeat. He hadn't seen his father since he was like 11 or 12. But the father, because he didn't have a will, he had as much right to whatever his property was as the mother. And the judge was so annoyed because the father just popped out of nowhere and he wanted half of the assets that were left, that the son got that would left given to the son in his name. And all the judge could do was give the mother the 12 or 13 years of child support that the man had never paid. But other than that, he had no choice but to split the assets with this deadbeat dad who had not even seen the kid in all those years. So I know you think I'm 20, I'm 30, it doesn't matter. This guy is probably thinking, I don't have anything, but look how he died. So I'm just sharing all that to say, like, you just never know. So where you think you don't have anything or you think it's not important, it really is. But if you're married and never got a divorce, handle your business. If you're living with somebody, I saw a lady when I was in California a couple weeks ago, and her parents never divorced. The father left. He worked for Pacific Bell. He was a line guy. They had great insurance and whatever. And he had been with this woman for many, many years. And the mother actually could have walked in and taken anything that woman had because it's hers. But anyway, so protect yourselves. I see a
the
few
other
more questions. Go ahead.
the other thing about that is if you don't get a divorce and that person's sick or died, you will be responsible for handling their final arrangements. So, we need to be mindful of that. And also, if anyone has money I keep money in my house, make sure somebody knows where that money is in your house if you've got cash there. And then the key, I just wanted to know, I live in a senior citizens complex. Would you be willing to come and talk to these seniors here?
Of course, yes, absolutely.
Okay. I put my information
Yes, I see it.
in
Mhm.
okay. So we can talk later about that, but I know there are a lot of people here who don't have wills. And I'm one of those attorneys that doesn't have a will.
Okay.
See? Miss Thomas, we're going to give you the last question. We're going to close this up and let Nakai go on and get with her
Um,
her
I, I,
her afternoon. I'm so grateful that you spent this time with us, Nakai.
yes,
Um,
Nakai, thank you. This has been extremely helpful. I really don't have a question, but I do have a couple of comments. I had to take care of my father's estate during the last half of his life. He was one of those people who didn't really want to talk about it. So it took me about 3 years to convince him that we needed to talk about his end of life plan. And finally, I was able to get power of attorney for him. And when he passed, he did not have a will because the only asset that he had that we thought he had was the house. We had put that in a life estate deed with my name on it, unbeknownst to my other four siblings, because there was going to surely be a fight over that property. So when he passed, I was the power of attorney. I was told, and he's in Ohio. When he passed, the power of attorney ends right then and there. So I had no more authority or say, but I did immediately go to the bank before I reported it. I pulled out whatever money I needed. but I had prepaid his funeral. I had the house. The only thing that we didn't realize that he was part of a class action lawsuit that is still paying out to this day. And so that had to be probated, and it's split among me and my siblings. So those are the only other things I want to comment. And also veterans benefits. He was a veteran, and it's helpful to know if your loved one is a veteran, what benefits are available to you to help with burial and stuff like that.
Very good information. So it's all these things that we just kind of take for granted. We don't want to talk about, we don't want to think about. But it's, I said in the email, there are inevitabilities, and I think I made that word up. I don't even know if that's really a word, but there are, life is inevitable, death is inevitable, and we need to start preparing for it and thinking about it. And, if we have situations now where parents or children are going before their parents. So we need to be having those conversations. You don't like your daughter-in-law, work it out. Because if something happened, y'all gonna have to work together on this. And she has the final say. So just so many things. Somebody says their first time with the group. I was invited. Thank you for coming, Miss Green. I hope that you'll come again. Nikai, did you let me do a last call for any questions for Nikai before we check out. Does anybody have any questions? Just unmute and ask it if you do. And if you're on the phone, we always forget about our people on the phone. If you have a question, do a *6 and ask your question real quick. Anybody? Okay.
Vicky,
So
you
I'm
have a
going to take.
question?
Yes, I have your phone number and I will be contacting you. Since I came in late, there are things that I missed, especially being able to download those papers with all the questions that, section 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that you gave.
Sure,
But
I'll put
my
it again.
daughter doesn't want to discuss anything. But at the time of my ex-husband's death, I made all those arrangements and took care of everything. And she and I bought a niche because we're going to be cremated and be with him. So
Yeah.
that's one thing I feel good that I've done, that I have the little square thing for my
Right.
ashes to go into.
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Hi,
Did I hear another?
yes, can you please email the link to the questions? I was listening on the phone.
Yeah, what I'll do for those of you who have not been here before, I will download this as a recording and put it on YouTube. And you can watch it there with your little notepad and take all the notes. And also you will be able to access Nakat. And I encourage that you reach out to her and get started. But more importantly, I think if we can I hope people are leaving here encouraged that we have issues that we need to deal with sooner rather than later. Not dealing with it is not going to make it go away or less complicated to do. So, have those quote unquote difficult but necessary conversations. And on that note, I'll give Nakai the last word.
All right. Thank you so much. Well, I mean, this is how when Black women gather, things are done. Okay. So we are here to get things done. It's about your legacy. It's about planning. It's about taking action. Don't leave this call without looking through your paperwork, getting copies of things, making phone calls, going through the checklist, right? Everybody needs to make sure that you are ready for the most important period of your life, which is the end of life planning, right? Your legacy is who
Crisis.
you are. Yes. So this is your legacy. This is what you are about. When it comes to your life and your loved ones, want to be making sure that you have this very simply done, right? So please, I urge you, ladies, to take the time and really, really think about who is minding your business.
Yes, who knows your business? It does matter. We always say, no, I don't want people up in my business. Yeah, you do. Find somebody that you can trust. You want somebody in all your business for this. So on that note, I just want to say thank you so much, Nakai, again for
Thank
coming.
you, ladies, for having me.
This will, like I said, this will be on YouTube, so you can go out there and look at it and follow up with Nakai. And if it's not Nakai, somebody like, if nothing else, sit down and start thinking and writing out what it is that you want. Look around your house. And I love the way Nakai broke it down because, somebody will argue over your record collection. You think it's nothing, but to somebody else it is. So go through your house like my Aunt Lillian did and give it away. Start giving stuff away. So there will be no arguments. But as much as you can, put things in order. And for those of you who have been around for a while, if you can unmute, we can sign out as we always do. We'll stick around for a few minutes afterwards if you want to talk. But when Black women gather, what happens?
Amazing
Amazing
things
things
happen.
happen.
Amazing things happen. And thank you all again for another amazing Sunday. And I'm going to stop recording on that note. Thank you again, Nakai. Maritza, I don't know if you're still here, but thank you again. Thank you for referring Nakai to us. And anybody, if you're on this call, you have a topic that you want to discuss or somebody that you want to recommend to us, by all means, please let us know. And we will have another call. We will have you and whoever your person is on the call, and we will. I'm trying to talk while I'm looking for this stop recording button, and I'm not finding it right. So I'm not being cool about it. All right, so I'm going to stop recording right now.